What is up, guys, and welcome here to the Daily Quest number 13. I'm Solid Jake, and well, today we're talking about mercenary camps. We're talking about how to maximize the effectiveness of your mercenary camps on pretty much every map in the game. And actually, by pretty much, I mean the current 6 that we have. Tomb of the Spider Queen is slated to come out next week. We'll probably do a special episode on that when it hits. But we're going to talk a lot about just how the jungle actually functions in Heroes of the Storm, because in League of Legends and Dota 2, the jungle is a bit different. You tend to have, the power to go and get the power-ups. The jungle doesn't necessarily push the lanes, and it works in a very different manner. It's about getting the farm from the jungle and getting those bonuses. So with Heroes of the Storm, well, the mercenary camps in that jungle, or just across the map in general, they provide a very different opportunity. They push the lanes, they do give experience, but they give you options. They open up doors for split pushing. They open up doors for, hey, look, there's this objective on the opposite side of the map. Well, if we actually grab this mercenary camp here, that'll net us an advantage because they have to respond to it, and they want to have all 5 contesting the temple here on the bottom. So we'll go into all of those scenarios in just a moment, but it's just, I can't stress enough at how different it is compared to the traditional MOBAs, and this entire episode is really geared towards just understanding how to use them in kind of specific ways for each map on a basis level. And usually we try to make the daily quest about an hour long, but today we're going to try to consolidate this and make it a much more just clean, concise episode where we just kind of focus in and we dive into each map. And without further ado, we can just start talking about like what kind of heroes are actually good at jungling. Now, the jungle roles in general in Heroes of the Storm aren't really as defined. You don't really say, oh, I'm a top laner, I'm a mid laner, I'm a jungler, too often. But there are definitely heroes that excel in the jungle compared to, well, other heroes. And just the first 5 that come to mind are probably Illidan, Sonya, Gazlo, Thrall, and Zagara. And Illidan, he's just got that sustain. He's just got the self-sustain. Same thing with Sonya. She can pop into the middle of a bruiser camp at level 4, pop the Whirlwind, and she can solo those bruisers at level 4, which is pretty ridiculous. Gazlo, he's got the turrets to help tank, and he can throw down those bombs, blow them all up, and same thing with Zagara. She's got the minions to tank them. So there are definitely heroes in the roster that are very good at it, but that's not really what we want to focus on that video. So if that's what you're looking for, yeah, that's some information. Yeah, that's a cat, and she is very hyper. But we will switch on over to take a look at those maps that we currently have in the game. Now, just switching over to the screen, we've got 6 maps in the current iteration. Cat? No. No. Stop. You know what? We're going to disengage webcam, and we're going to throw cat away. Go. Be free. And we're going to look at these 6 maps. We've got Sky Temple, Garden of Terror, Blackheart's Bay, Dragonshire, Haunted Mines, and Cursed Hollow. Now, these 6 maps, we do have Tomb of the Spider Queen around the corner, and we know that Blizzard intends to continue adding maps, and I'll contend to create that content as the time comes. But as it stands, this is what we see. And we can just start off by taking a look at Sky Temple. Now, this is the newest map in the roster. And this is, of course, all information you can get on the Heroes of the Storm website. All this information, they tell you how the map functions, right on the Heroes of the Storm website. Very good resource, and we're going to be utilizing that in today's video. Now, that's how the map's laid out. Sky Temple, it's a pretty big map, and as a result, well, you can see the mercenary camps. These blue dots here, these blue little skulls, that's the merc camp. So on this map, there's actually 5. And there's a few different things you have to consider on this map. The temples provide massive amounts of damage. They're just incredibly strong, and the temples are really always going to be the priority over mercenary camps when it comes to, like, if we can get one or the other, you want to go for the temple. But there's some cool things you can do with the mercenary camps. Now, at the start of the game, well, we know the mercenary camps spawn around 2 minutes, and we know that the first temple spawn is the middle and the top temple. And with that, we can zoom in. Does my mouse even show here? It's invisible? That's sad. That makes me sad. I don't know why it does that. Well, we can see the middle temple and the top temple are the first spawn. So in theory, you want to have that presence in the top as much as possible because you know you're going to be fighting over those temples. You can try to sneak giants in the bottom and get that early push, but typically it's pretty uncommon to see mercenary camps before the first temple spawn. But when we a really nice Merc camp timing on this map is after the temples do finish. So when the middle and top temple have completed their duration, the second spawn of temples happens 2 minutes after that. So you have to set a mental note. You have to say, all right, well, at 3 minutes and 40 seconds, or whatever the time happens to be, the temples depleted their ammunition and they are done. It'll be 2 minutes before the next temple, which will always be bottom for the second spawn. The bottom temple will always be the second spawn. 2 minutes until that happens. So what you can do is you can set yourself up and you can take your bruisers and cap the bruisers just as the temple's about to spawn. And what this does is it forces the enemy team to have to react to that, because the bruisers will do a lot of damage. They get a lot of push potential when left uncontested. So forcing them to have to think about going and defending those bruisers when they want to have all 5 on that single bottom temple is a really nice thing to do. This is something we've seen competitive teams really start to pick up and utilize in almost every single game. We'll actually see them kill the bruisers early and just sit next to the camp waiting to cap it, because even though you've killed the bruisers doesn't mean you have to cap it instantly. So you can just sit there and wait a moment, and then as soon as you see that temple spawn, you cap it and you make your way down to the bottom lane and you have that presence in the top. It's just being obnoxious, and it gives you like an edge. It's a nice little competitive edge that you can get in that matchup. So that's like the most consistent thing you can do here on Sky Temple. But looking at the rest of the map, you got to be really careful when you think about the other mercenary camps. Now, stealing giants, if you're ever in a lead, always do what you can to steal the mercenary camps. Giants do not take a long time to capture. If we just zoom into the map, the giants, they hang out here. They walk right around the corner, and they are sieging that tower. So if you can steal them, you have to make sure you have vision. So you have to be very careful. Watch that minimap and say, all right, well, we either have an advantage because they're dead, or we know that they're all in the top lane because of the temple. And if here's a situation where it's a really good time to steal the giants instead of contesting a temple. If your enemy team is level 10 and you're level 9, and you just cannot fight over that bottom temple or whichever temple it happens to be because you don't have heroics, it's not worth trying to take the team fight without heroics. That's a good time to try to come in here and squeeze out these giants and utilize them for that. Now, getting your own giants is great, but taking an aggressive camp on your enemy's team, that's a really good bonus, because it's just like it's going to make the best out of a bad situation. Now, you always have to think, if you're behind, you want to be soaking as much as possible, and you don't want to spread yourselves too thin, but that's the kind of situation. The final mercenary camp here on Sky Temple, well, that's the boss. And the boss, well, we've kind of dubbed a little name for it, and we call it the throw pit, because, yeah, it's in the dead center of the map. It's a very risky thing to try to capture the boss. And you can't, I'm just going to say straight up, you cannot try to attempt a boss if you do not have an advantage on the enemy team. Time and time again, we've even seen the best teams in the world try to just squeeze it out and sneak it from their opponents, and it just costs them the game. And we see this happen so frequently on quick match as well, because if the enemies even catch wind, it only takes a clairvoyance, a sentinel from Tyrande, anything, one player passing by the dead center of the map, and you're going to be in a really tight spot, because those tornadoes that summon around the boss, they're very dangerous, and well, you just got to be very mindful. So please do not try to take the boss unless you have just won a team fight and you're at least in the mid game, because you need a decent amount of death timer to be able to do that in a safe manner. But yeah, that's kind of like just the gist of Sky Temple, some general rules, nothing too fancy. I mean, of course, there are definitely a lot of very specific scenarios, but in terms of just like consistent scenarios that are going to work out for you, that's probably the best advice I can give for Sky Temple. But moving down the line, we can switch over to Garden of Terror. Now, Garden of Terror, the second newest map added into the game. This map has seen a few iterations over time, and this map has a few unique mechanics to it when it comes to the mercenary camps. Number one, when we hit a Garden Terror being spawned, this is also true for Dragonshire. Guys are asking about this recording. It will be on YouTube, yes. When the Garden Terror is spawned by any team, all of the mercenary camps on the map that have not been aggroed will disappear. So this is something you have to consider, and this is also something that you can take advantage of. So if you know that you have a garden terror that your team can capture, you can say, hey guys, wait 1 second while I start killing these giants. And then you can start blowing up a safe giant pack on your side of the map. You can just send 2 guys down here, start killing these giants, and before you know it, you start it, the garden terror spawns, and it's going to remain on the map. But what you have to consider is that the little mini-map icon for this giant will remain, and all of the other mini-map icons for mercenaries will disappear. So your opponents will know, hey, somebody's fighting there. They're actually trying to take those, and you have to weigh that risk-reward situation. But a lot of the times this can give you that extra oomph to your push, especially if you grab the top giants and you want to go bottom lane with the garden terror. You grab these top giants, they're going to walk down the top lane, and then you throw the garden terror down the bottom lane, and the enemy team has to respond to that. That's just the extra presence that you get out of the mercenaries. That's what's cool about them. They're not just farm. They're not just this nice thing to get. They actually provide presence on the map, and they allow you to make dynamic decisions on your team and pressure in a unique way. Because if you just want to throw everything into that bottom lane with guard terror and blow that fort up, if they respond with 5, that top 4 is just going to be sieged up constantly, and they're going to take so much damage. And if you can manage to stall out the fight, it works out very well for you. But oh my goodness, the cat aggro is so ridiculous right now. I'll give you guys some cat action. She's doing things. All right, so let's talk about the mechanic on Garden of Terror. The seeds, the plant terrors, and just the night phase in general. Every single night phase, there is exactly 180 seeds. The boss guy, we'll switch over to night. Ooh, so fancy, so fancy. It's inverted for the scroll. I don't like that. The boss, there's 2 of them. It's actually a mirror image from the bottom and the top. It is identical. Typically we see teams trying to split the 2, or maybe splitting the halves horizontally or vertically. It depends on the situation. The boss drops 60 seeds guaranteed. There is 60 seeds on him, and each shambler, there's 3 per pack, has 10 seeds. So 30 seeds, 60. That makes how many? I just said it wrong. Each shambler has 5 seeds. I lied to you. I had to count in my head. I was like, that is not right, Jake. That is incorrect. Each shambler has 5 seeds. There are 3 shamblers, so there's 15 here. There's 15 here. And then there's 60 here. So that's 90. Yes, that is correct. And it's the same for the top. 90 seeds between these 3 camps. So you always have to consider, all right, we've gotten enough seeds. And the enemy team, well, they're not going to get enough. They're not going to... There's no way for them to have a terror. And those we've collected, let's say we've collected, 86 seeds or something. And we know that there's in fact just no chance for them to get a terror. And they're still fighting this top boss. And you have the option to rotate up to the top lane to try to contest that and get the first terror. Well, that is a good option, but this is also an option where you can consider getting more mercenary camps. And this is just one of those scenarios. It's like, well, we know they're cleaning up those seeds, so we can actually abuse this fact and pick up our mercenary camps. And a lot of the time, this is like the safer option that can push you ahead in terms of experience, especially in the early game, and get you to level 10 sooner. Because you grab these giants together. You just rotate over from capping this guy, go over to the giants, and then go over to the bruisers, and then you just push those 2 lanes. You always want to try to make sure you can soak the top lane on top of this. But that's definitely a really nice option for utilizing the mechanic in general of this map when you know that you're not going to be in a disadvantaged situation. Now, if they're at a position where they're going to get a terror and you're not, and you have to deny that, it's probably the right call to go and contest that terror. If you have all 5 members up, do what you can to stop them from getting a terror, but it's a dynamic situation, and that's the fun thing about Heroes of the Storm is everything is very dynamic in terms of like the way you can respond to the various map objectives and then just get the additional advantage moving forward, because it's all about getting that advantage and maintaining an advantage. Because if you have the heroic lead, you're in a great spot. If you hit level 13 first, you have the talent advantage, and those power spikes is when we see teams making those big decisions. It's like, okay, well, we know we have an edge in this next fight, and we need to utilize that. So that's kind of when teams start to get aggressive, and that's the cool thing about the flow of Heroes of the Storm. I think I covered most of the things on this. I think the last thing to really just cover on Garden of Terror is the power of the plant terror that you summon. When you summon this big oafish plant terror that spawns from your base, if he has a few cool abilities. Now you guys probably know he has Queen's Curse. That's the big polymorph. He has Overgrowth. That's the thing that overgrows all over the place and puts roots on all your structures. And he's got the sprint. Overgrowth, though, is actually phenomenal. If you're in a situation where the enemy team is destroying you in the mercenary count, and you need to defend mercenaries, a single Overgrowth will remove any wave and mercenary camp. So if you see a pack of bruisers, you just throw Overgrowth at it, you walk away, and it will clean it up. And a lot of people don't seem to realize that. So that's just definitely a nice little quick tip for that. And that's pretty much the rundown for Garden Terror, but we're not done yet because we got 4 more maps and we're just powering through and making our way to Blackheart's Bay. Now, Blackheart's Bay, you can't stress enough how important the mercenary camps are. The merc camps all drop coins, and the core mechanic is involving both the mercenary camps and the pirate camps. Now, these pirate camps, they don't push lane, they function a little bit differently, but they drop 2 coins, just like any mercenary camp would. So they're very easy to kill, and pretty much any hero in the game can solo them. And even Abathur can take care of these guys. Now, there's actually some advanced ways to do a lot of things with Abathur. Abathur can solo bruisers at some point in the game, but we're not going to talk about that. But yes, these guys drop coins, and of course, you can get the giants. Now, this map has an abundance of mercenary camps, and it's laid out in it's again mirror image, but it's a pretty dynamic sense in the fact that there is the boss in the top. And then we've got bruisers, pirates, giants, and then bruisers again. So bottom lane and top lane both have a massive potential for mercenary camps. And middle lane, there are no mercenaries. There are no mercenaries that push down mid. We've got the giants, and the bruisers, and then mid has nothing. So how do you take advantage of this? Typically, it's actually just controlling your own jungle. There's nothing, there's no crazy timings just because of the way the map works. There's no kind of edge you can get. But when you have the advantage, grabbing these bottom giants or these bruisers, they apply a lot of aggression. So it's an obvious thing to say, being able to steal those. But this is a map where we see more and more prevalence on heroes like Zagara, where their ability to just control this bottom lane, creep it up, get a nice creep highway where you have tons of vision, then you can start to get sneaky and try to grab these. Because if you can pair a pack of giants with a pack of knights, it goes so well together. The giants, they have that range. The knights, they can tank a lot of shots, and combined, they do a lot of work. Alright, sorry. Cat is actually just freaking out right now. Alright, so Blackheart's, yeah, pretty clean and simple. Yeah, it's nice to apply the aggression, but the way the map works, I don't think there's anything... I might be missing something, but I don't think there's anything just super crazy to really point out, other than the fact that controlling mercenary camps is the core objective, and you want to make sure you collect those coins. So just kind of moving through over to Dragonshire. Dragonshire functions in a way pretty similar to Garden of Terror, in the sense that on Dragonshire, when you summon the Dragonite, who is a big beefy dude that can do a lot of damage, all the mercenary camps disappear. So the rules are the same. If you are if you're already fighting a mercenary camp, it will stay. If you have not aggroed it yet, it will disappear. And of course, if it's been captured, null and void. But looking at the merc camps, well, there's only giants, bruisers, and then, zoomed out way too far, and another pack of bruisers in the bottom of the map. So there's the 5 mercenary camps. But here's the thing. Again, no merc camps go down middle, but this bottom lane, we tend to see a lot of, there's a lot of options. There's 2 packs of giants and a pack of knights that can push down bottom. And here's the cool thing about Dragonshire. The fact that there are so many mercenary camps that push down this bottom lane really puts up a lot of potential to just like push that lane early. So as a result, we tend to see maybe a 1-1-3 split. Top lane, you throw 1 hero. Middle lane, you throw a 2nd hero. And bottom lane, you put 3 members in and you try to get that push. Heroes like Sergeant Hammer and Zagara really excel here. They can put that damage on those towers so quickly and start to force them down. And then you start throwing giants into the mixture, and it gets great. Now, Bribe has kind of fallen off in the current meta just because of Brightwing. But Bribe has always been very powerful on this map, and let me kind of explain one of the cool things about Bribe. Since the distance between the bottom lane and the middle lane is so short, you can travel between these two lanes very quickly. And the way the map is shaped, the minions traveling down middle will always reach the middle point of the map first, and the bottom and top lanes, they'll always stagger behind just a bit. As a result, you can actually effectively farm mid lane and bottom lane on one hero. So if you're playing Falstad, you're playing Brightwing, you're rocking Bribe on your hero, or even Raynor who has that specialized Bribe, you can get a lot of Bribe stacks by soaking two lanes at once. Now you have to be wary that the enemy team might try to catch on to what you're doing and they might try to gank you. But if you have the coordination, you have the synergy, you can get that farm, and then you can put yourself into a position where you can very easily steal these giants and then quickly rotate back, steal them with Bribe, quickly rotate back, pick up more giants, and if you've already been applying pressure to this bottom lane, it's a massive threat. And that's the kind of thing on Dragonshire that can pull them away from the shrines and allow you to capture a Dragonite. Because utilizing mercenary camps as a distraction in order to do a very decisive timing to try to throw them off and pick up the Dragonite is crucial. You want to utilize them as that big distraction because they know it's a threat. And time again, that's what we see teams doing. I mean, they're just utilizing those merc camps, getting that push, and then trying to sneak the Dragonite out. So really, just make sure you keep your eye on that bottom lane because the presence of mercenaries is very strong. Yes, bruisers in the top lane is scary, but there's no boss that can push with it. There's no giants that can push with it. It's just the bruisers you have to worry about. So bottom lane, that is where we tend to see most of the action here on Dragonshire. And just making sure I didn't forget anything, looking through the map really quick. Yeah, no, that's pretty much the gist for Dragonshire. All right, well, we're going quick, but that's the idea with this. I want this to be very clean, concise, and we can go to Haunted Mines. Now, Haunted Mines has seen many changes since the start of the alpha, and I think this version is pretty much here to stay. Now, we can talk about a few things. We can talk about how the mines has two layers. We have the upper level, and you can see looking down here into the bottom level. Ooh, the mine entrance. How nice. We have the underground. And the underground, these guys aren't mercenary camps. Yes, their icon is the same. They're actually just little skeletons, and you kill them, and you collect their skulls to turn in to summon a bigger grave golem. That's the core mechanic. Right, great, good. Now let's talk about decision making when it comes to going into the mines versus grabbing mercenary camps. In the current version of Mines, and the way it exists right now, you will always enter the mines before grabbing mercenary camps. And there is a very clear decision why. A 100 skull golem can end the game, and if you give that up, that's terrible. Skulls in general are just so important. I mean, this map is snowballing as it gets. So getting an even or strong golem is, for the first golem, it means so much. B, using mercenaries defensively for the first spawn of this game, and potentially forward, is so incredibly powerful. So let's talk about that. So the mines open, right? The mines are open, he says, and you all scramble into the mines and you collect as many skulls as you can. Both teams end up pretty even. Well, we can go through a few scenarios here. So here's the scenario that both teams end up with like a 50-50 golem. Enemy team rushes out of the mines. They go straight into their jungle, and they cap those giants, right? Oh, good. Well, those giants, well, the golems start to spawn. It takes a little while. They start thumping, goes doosh, doosh. And the giants, they just got picked up. So ding, and the giants will just walk on up, and they'll walk right over, and they're gonna go to where this golem's gonna spawn. Do I have this backwards? I have it backwards. So they're gonna walk down. They're gonna walk down this lane, and they're gonna step on out. And guess what? The enemy team is gonna blow them up so quickly, and their effectiveness is actually like null and void. Like, yeah, you got experience out of them, great. You made sure your enemy team didn't steal them from you, great. But they're dead already. Then the golem makes his way in, and he starts smacking this wall. Well, guess what? Your team decided, hey, we're gonna wait. We're going to wait to capture these giants, and we're going to use them to help defend their golem. So the blue team's golem in the top lane is going to march around. In the timing, here's the crucial part. The timing in which you want to capture these giants is as the golem passes this wall. So you'll see the golem, he'll march around, and you can actually, it's identical to your golem, so you can just watch your own golem. But as he makes his way down the path, he will get to this outer gate, and even as he's about here, that's when you can capture it. But that, I mean, really, I just like to say, hey, wait till it passes the wall. That's the easiest way to tell your allies, especially if they're new to the game. When you pass that wall, that's when you wait. You capture the giants at that point, and the giants will slowly log themselves up here, and they'll stand right about here, and they will throw their boulders at that golem. This gives so much additional output, and your giants are in a very safe position because the enemy team, especially if they're trying to get aggressive, they're trying to push in on you, they're going to be right at your gate here. And if the giants are even here, say the giants are right around here, they can shoot over the wall to kill them. If Kerrigan is on the enemy team, she can primal grasp them, pull them forward, and then just eliminate them very quickly because they don't have a huge health pool. But their damage potential is what they're good at. They have such large damage output, and they can throw their boulders from a safe position. So that will help. If your enemy team does not have giants helping to defend, the difference is massive. It makes such a big difference. So that's scenario one with an even golem. And I'd say if you have a weaker golem, say you lost the fight in the mines, and you guys are fighting. You guys just happen to lose the fight at the boss. Trickling into the mines one at a time, not really a beneficial situation, not really a good scenario, because you're just going to keep throwing bodies at them, you're throwing experience to them, and you're just stalling out the inevitable. If you know you're not going to be able to contest that final boss, if you know they're going to be able to capture that, sometimes it's best to just cut your losses and then go straight for the knights. So you know they're clearing up that boss, the count is relatively even. That's when you go in, you pop in, and you grab these knights. Grabbing the knights applies pressure in the opposing lane. It's not the same lane as your golem. So if your golem is marching down the bottom lane, these knights will go to the top lane, and they'll just apply some pressure. It's just like a nice little extra thing to get. They are in the center of the map. They are risky to get. The watchtowers do control that vision, so they can see that, so you need to have control of these watchtowers. It's a very interesting dynamic to Heroes of the Storm maps, just having that map vision, especially consider this one controls the vision provides just on the edge of the knights and shows these giants, and it's the opposite over here. So that's the timing when you're going to try to take knights, if during the mine phase. But the other time that we tend to see the bruisers get picked up, and the other good time to grab bruisers, is after the bosses have been defeated. So say you defended the enemy team's golem, and they're still fighting your golem because you happen to get the bigger golem. Well, that's a really good time to hop in and grab the bruisers. So somebody's asking, what are the thresholds for the grave golems? How many skulls is a strong golem? So an even golem is 50-50. Yes, that is correct. There is exactly 100 skulls. A great thing to point out, so thank you for asking that. And you want to make sure that if you have like a 42 skull golem, let's say you have a 42 skull golem, and they get a 68 skull golem, it's not the end of the world. I probably just failed math, but it's okay. 42, 58, much better. It's not the end of the world. It's pretty darn even. But once you start looking at like 30-70, that's when it starts to get kind of scary. And I think Venarian linked yes, this is good. Somebody posted this on Reddit. Venarian, thank you in chat for linking this. And this is actually the layout. Somebody created this. This is the scenes that spawn, or the skull counts for all in the mines. We have the 8 per the normal camps across the mines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 camps that have 8 skulls. These 2 camps on the left side, they contain more skulls. That's why typically when the people enter the mines, when the teams enter the mines, they will rotate straight down here and just fight over this camp, or fight over this camp to get those early skulls, because there are more skeletons per those camps. And then of course the boss, he's the hardest guy to fight. That's 30 skulls on him. Thank you for linking that, and thank you for whoever created that on Reddit, because it's just a really nice tool to help people understand how the mines actually work, because you wouldn't think that those 2 middle camps actually make that big of a difference. All right, moving back over to the map now. So now is our final situation, where you have the massive lead. You have a 70 skull golem, and you just want to put that pressure on. You just want to try to end the game. Well, in this situation, we can assume the enemy team is realizing they've lost the mines, and they're taking that advice and they're going in and they're capping those bruisers. The situation here is you go up, you clear those bruisers very quickly. It doesn't take that long early game. You just blow them up, and then you rotate up. You get your giants, like we talked about. You get those giants to defend, and you just throw that one pack of giants to help defend that golem, because they only have a 30 skull golem. The giants plus your towers are going to shred through that thing, right? And then you take all 5 members and you push. If you have the advantageous golem, you push that advantage. You will do a lot of damage. You will power through their fort, potentially get to their keep. And I've seen games where the first golem of the game with 80, 90 skulls, it ends the game. The cat is like, oh yes, 80, 90 skulls. That is what I'm all about. It's good. It's a very, very big thing I need to point out, because when you have the advantage, you need to push your advantage. Win your head, get more ahead. I forget who said that in StarCraft. I don't know if it was Day9 or White Raw or who, but it's the best advice you can ever give, especially here, because this map is very snowbally. Once you have that advantage, you can just take control of the map and take a commanding lead and just push, push, push. Of course, it can be thrown away with team fights, but I think that's pretty much the rules for Haunted Mines. So as the second mines do spawn, it becomes a little more specific to the scenario as to Artosis said it. Great. Sorry, I didn't even say Artosis. Excellent. But yeah, so as the second mine spawn, the mines still maintain the importance. They are still the most important part of the map, and you want to make sure that you utilize the skulls to get the bigger grave golem at the end of the day. But the mercenary camps can still be used if their terror hasn't pushed through this fort entirely. Yes, they can still be used defensively. If it's already back at your keep, well, your giants are probably just going to walk down that lane, but they're still good to control. But their importance at the start of the game, I mean, I just can't stress it enough as to how impactful those early game giants can help for defending, and then just kind of the decision making as to when it's time to grab the giants, when it's time to grab the mercenaries in general, and when it's time to push. So hopefully that, guys, helps you out with Haunted Mines. And our final map of the game. You make big grave golem, then defense it. Thanks, White Raw. Very good. Yes, you defense your big grave golem. That is probably the best advice you could give. Cattail. Oh. All right. Final map. Cursed Hollow, however you want to pronounce it. And this is probably the map we see the most on competitive play. And this is the map where we really start to see some of those heroes that shine in terms of jungling. Really just kind of will stand out. But typically it's the heroes that we see that are very dynamic in compositions. So you don't necessarily have to send one hero to jungle, but Illidan, Sonya, those are the two that probably stand out the most in terms of just being like nice picks that can also go around and do very aggressive things. Now, Cursed Hollow is a map where vision is key. It's a very large map, and it has, you can see there's a lot of points on the map with a lot of things. Let's talk about them. The way the map works, you grab 3 tributes, your enemy team is cursed. Good, great, we understand that. Excellent. Now, let's talk about the mercenaries. There are 2 bosses on this map. It is actually the only map in the game that has 2 bosses, and this provides for very exciting and very interesting play. Honestly, it's the reason this is my favorite map in the game is because there are 2 bosses and the decision making that comes with that. But let's start with early game. 2 minutes into the game, the mercenary camp spawn. The giants, the bruisers, they spawn. The golem, he spawns a bit later. But 2 minutes in, that's when you can send one hero, whether it's Illidan, Sonya, Zagara, whoever, back to grab these giants. You could throw a pair. You could take Rhaegar and whoever else, take two heroes, go take these giants. It gives you nice early aggression. And here's the thing. The first curse of the game will always spawn at between about 2 minutes and 15 seconds and 2 minutes and 50 seconds. It's not an exact time slot. It's somewhere in that range. But you got to think, all right, well, if we at the 2-minute marker when the giants spawn, if we send a few heroes or a single hero to go capture the giants, by the time they complete that and the time they capture that, the tribute could spawn. Now, you want to do this safely in your own jungle because it's a massive risk to go way over here, especially when there's a watchtower providing that whole area. But that's another great thing to point out. So say we're the blue team and we want to grab our giants in 2 minutes. We have this watchtower. This is a massive safety bubble. The only way that you can get ganked is for them to walk through this field. So there is literally no risk at dying as long as you're paying attention and if they have stealthies. And of course you can see the shimmer. But here's the thing. If you do manage to grab these guys at, say, 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and then 10 seconds later, that tribute spawns, and the tribute happens to spawn, way down here. Oh, look, the tribute spawns. Now, let's clarify something. The first tribute will always spawn in either the bottom center position or the top center position. So it's relatively even. So the first tribute is always going to be in those spawn locations. But if you happen to get lucky and you grab your giants and the tribute spawns down here, they have giants to worry about in the top lane. They might have to stall for a minute, wait for those giants to pass through your gates up here, and then eventually eliminate it, then make their way down to the tribute. It's just another presence on the map. It gives you that advantage. You can have 5 people at that tribute fighting over it, and you have the presence from those giants. The giants, yeah, you're not soaking that lane, but they're taking out towers, and that gives your team experience. And getting that experience edge is what it's all about, because hitting level 10 first is crucial. Now, there is a lot of downtime between tributes, and that's when you'll see teams throwing 1 to 2 members to take these bruisers. There's not a specific timing that makes it like perfect, but after you finish that tribute, if you can soak all 3 lanes and send 2 safely, you just want to safely soak all 3 lanes and send 2 members back to grab the bruisers, that's an ideal thing to do. Command your jungle, get that experience, maximize the amount of experience you can get on the map, and then just keep pushing forward towards that level 10. And around the 3rd tribute is typically when we see level 10 being hit. If you have it and your enemy team does not, well, you have a very convincing position. So, alright, so here's a great spot. Level 10. We're on the blue team, right? 3rd tribute of the game spawns, and it's right here. We're looking at this this very right. It's very close to their spawn point, so it's very advantageous for the red team. And we have 2 tributes. They have 2 tributes. It's very dead even. 5th tribute of the game. We'll say it's the 5th tribute of the game. This is very far in their favor, and you have to weigh the risk reward. Okay. Well, we're actually up. We have level 11, and they just hit 10, so we have the level lead, but they also have heroics. Well, how do you weigh that situation? How do you take this, make sure that it's going to be a good team fight for you, and make sure that they don't get the curse and you get the first curse of the game. There's a lot of variables. If you do not have an talent advantage, and they are set up before you since it's on their side of the map, chances are you just want to be very careful, and you have to try to get a pick. So stall it out the best you can, but don't rush headfirst into there. And the number of times that I've seen teams just kind of dive in, trying to contest that last tribute because it's a curse, and the enemy team is already positioned. They've got the Nazebo sitting here waiting for Ravenous Spirit, Sergeant Hammer back here, whatever the situation is. If you throw that away and you throw that team fight, not only are they going to fly up in experience, but that's also going to set them up to take their boss. On the flip side, if you're positioned first and they have to come to you and they have to come on your turf, even though it's their side of the map, you put yourself in a ridiculously good situation where you can hopefully take that fight. If you take a convincing enough team fight, the correct decision in this case only is to take the boss. If it's very commanding and very decisive, you grab that boss, and then you let the boss push the top lane, and then you send your team down to this middle lane to destroy this middle fort, and from there, you can rotate back and take your own boss. And this will give you such a massive amount of momentum on the map, it's ridiculous. So it's all about making that decision making. Now, if it's not as decisive, you only have 3 members, you can't take the boss, just take advantage of the curse, because you have to utilize the curse. A lot of teams have always question, when do I opt to go for mercenaries versus taking advantage of the curse? The only time you're really going to go for the boss when you've already have a curse active on the enemy team. is going to be in a situation where you're right there. It's very convenient, and you have all your members to just plow through it. As long as you're not wasting too much time, it's worth doing. Otherwise, just push with your curse. After the curse has finished, say that you don't have the capability to take this boss safely, and you just want to maximize your curse. When the curse finishes, chances are the enemy team is going to be cleaning up their lanes. So what you would do in that situation, they're cleaning up their lanes. They have to push those lanes back out because the curse pushes all of the lanes. That's when you send your team back down here, and then you take the boss on your own side. If you can start that first, since they're busy in the lanes, and you capture your own boss, it's actually a really good decision to try to rotate up and then contest them at their boss on the other side of the map, and just do what you can to mess them up and ruin their day, and try to steal the boss for them, because a double boss push is actually just utterly terrifying. But things to consider on this map. The power of clairvoyance, or farsight, and Rhaegar. Having that vision to check their location, check the status on the boss, is key. Global presence in general, ETC with Stage Dive, Brightwing with Phase Shift, Falstad with his Fly. All very powerful. You can get across the map and make cheeky plays, A, to capture tributes, B, to contest those mercenary camps. Yeah, and I guess last but not least is just having that map vision, whether it's with Zagar with creatures or what. That's when you can start, especially as the game progresses. Maybe not early game, but more in the late game. It's like, okay, well, we know we're applying a ton of pressure with the boss up here or whatever. That's a situation where Illidan can run across the map and grab these giants. Falstad can walk across the map, bribe, and then just fly out of there. And these giants, again, they start sieging up right here. They stand in the bush, and they throw boulders, and it can mess kids up. So that's the gist of Cursed Hollow. It's a very dynamic map. I'm happy to answer more questions on more specific scenarios if I didn't happen to cover anything in some of these maps. If you guys still have questions, I did my best to do this in a very just quick and concise manner. It still ended up being a 45-minute video because talking is easy to do. But some of the maps there's more rules than others. Some maps are just more free flowing, like Blackheart's, where it's just kind of open ended. It's kind of just like, well, that's the mechanic, is you just collect coins and you do that, so the mercenary camps are just really powerful all the time. But the other maps, they have more. It's a little bit more dynamic in the regard that mercenary camps can be used to help you achieve those actual map objectives, like the tributes. So yes, just please do not hesitate to ask me questions either in the YouTube comments or in the Twitch chat after this, or of course on Twitter. So you can, of course, it's just YouTube SolidJakeGG, Twitch SolidJakeGG, and in Twitter SolidJakeGG. And yeah, that's my 1-2 guide to mercenary camps on the 6 maps that are currently in Heroes of the Storm. And I think that's gonna do it for this episode today of the Daily Quest. Now this is episode 13. I was working on a website, so this is like a quick plug time. I started working on a website for myself, just for like the Solid Jake and promoting the Daily Quest. And it's a little bit more of a project than I'm going to commit to at this very moment. I think what's going to end up happening is I'm going to make a thread over on Team Liquid. And on the Team Liquid thread, you guys can request episodes, you can request themes, and it'll have all the general information as to what's coming in the upcoming weeks, because I want you guys to tell me what you want to see, what you guys want to learn. And I will then convey the information the best I can for you. So look out for that Team Liquid thread very soon. Team Liquid just opened up a Heroes of the Storm section on their forums, and I will be utilizing that as a resource. Beyond that, the VOD will be up soon, and I still haven't decided on what's happening next week. Now, next week is the Sylvanas release. We're pretty darn certain she comes out Tuesday, so chances are there will be no Daily Quest Tuesday. Chances are Tuesday will be straight up just a really extended stream of Sylvanas, and then Wednesday is looking, we'll figure out what the Wonky Wednesday theme will be. Again, if you guys, Wonky Wednesday, that's supposed to be very fun, laid back, silly compositions, silly strategies, whatever. Let me know what you guys want to see, and we'll get that scheduled out, and we'll get that posted on Team Liquid. Team Liquid, that's going to be the home for all daily news. And map. Yes, you do mention Tomb of the Spider Queen. From what we understand, we very well could be getting Team League and other features with that. And of course, you can check out our podcast channel, Heroes, to discuss that. But I'm actually going to be streaming, even when the servers are down. I will be streaming probably some Warcraft 3. And then as soon as patch notes hit, we're going to do a big patch note discussion solo. And then we'll do it on the podcast on Wednesday night on top of it. But on that note, we've got time. So I'm gonna close out the video again, guys. If you would like to submit replays, for the daily quest, you can submit them to solidgeekgg@gmail.com. Make sure to check out the Team Liquid thread, like we said. And I'm going to get ready to switch over to do some solo queue Hero League in just a moment. Thanks for watching the daily quest, and we'll see you next time.